Alright guys, this video is about the rule of 4 using square root functions. And if you remember, the rule of 4 is given a description, a table, a graph, or an equation. If I give you one of those 4 things, you could find the other 3. So we'll start with given a description or an equation. Either way, if I give you those, you'll be given the translations that the parent square root function is going to undergo. And then, given the translations, you can obtain A or H or K, all of those 3. And those are the 3 things that you need to write the equation. Or if I give the equation, you can look and locate A, H, and K. Those things can then be used to translate the graph, and you can sketch the graph, and you can apply the translations to that graph and make a table off of that. For example 1, you're going to be given a description, and that is a square root function that has been shifted left 4 units and down 6 units. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is take this description and we're going to figure out what A, H, and K are. It says it has been shifted left 4 units, so that means left 4, our H has to be -4. And it says down 6, so our K has to be 6. Remember, it's Y equals A, your stretch or shrink, square root of X minus H, your horizontal shift, you don't need those parentheses, plus K. So, it doesn't say anything about a stretch or shrink or reflection. We don't have any A's. We're just going to write our equation. Y equals the square root of, and then it's X minus -4, so that's actually the square root of X plus 4. Remember, that's left 4, so it's the opposite. And then minus 6. That should be a -6. So there's your equation right here. Then we need to take this equation and make a table. Now, one way to make your table is to just start plugging in x's, any x that you want, and find y and write them down in a table. But another easier way to do this is to take all of your home base points and then subtract 4, because we're going left 4, from all your x's, and subtract 6 from all your y's. And I know it's confusing because in the equation it says plus 4, and here you're going minus 4. But just remember, under the radical sign, it's plus 4 means we're going left 4. And if we're going left 4, we actually have to take the x's that we start with and then subtract 4 from them. So our home base points of 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, and 9, 3, we're going to take away 4 from each of these and take away 6 from each of these. So your table is actually going to be -4, -6, and that will be your end point. -3, -5, 0, -4, and 5, -3. So those are the points I'm going to plot. So we'll plot those points: -4, -6, and -3, -5, and 0, -4, and 5, -3, and connect the dots. We know that this one is our endpoint, and then it curves out this way. So there's the graph. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Okay, next example. You're given an equation. Y equals 2, square root of X minus 1, and then plus 3. So the first thing we're going to do is locate our A, which is 2, our H, which is 1, and our K, which is 3. And we're going to use those to write a description, and this is what we did yesterday. We're going to say a square root function that has been stretched by a factor of 2, shifted right 1 unit, and shifted up 3 units. And make sure you do say a square root function at the beginning of your description. Otherwise, it could be any kind of function. All right, so now that we know that, we can just make a table and a graph. And this is what we did yesterday. So we're just going to take this equation. We're going to say, all right, we know that our endpoint is going to be 1, 3. We know that because we know what h and k are. So that's where we're going to start with our table. Now to make our table, to get our x values, we're just going to add 1 to each of our home base values because we're shifting it all right 1. For our y values, we have to first make sure that we stretch it by a factor of 2 and then add 3. Make sure you multiply by 2 first and then add 3. Don't add the 3 first and then multiply by 2. That would give you a different number. So we're going to take our home base points, 0, 1, 4, 9, 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, 9, 3. Take those home base points, add 1 to each of these, multiply each of these by 2, and then add 3. We will end up with our initial point, our end point will be at 1, and then 0 times 2 is 0, plus 3 is 3, at 1, 3. Then we have 2, and then 1 times 2 is 2, plus 3 is 5. 4 plus 1 is 5. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. And then 9 plus 1 makes 10. And 3 times 2 is 6. And then 6 plus 3 is 9. So those are going to be the points that we plot. And we'll plot them here. So 1, 3 right there. And 2, 5 here. And 5, 7. Here, and 10, 9 is going to be here. So we know this is our endpoint. We aren't going to go any further than this, but it's going to go out that way. So if you can tell, it's stepping up 2 units instead of 1 unit. That's because we've got a stretch of 3. So it's a stretched up taller graph, and it's shifted also. Alright, now, if you're given a graph or a table, then the instructions are a little different. The first thing you're going to do, if you're given a graph, you're going to make a table, or if you're given a table, you'll plot the points. But either way, once you have that, find the endpoint. The endpoint is going to be this point right here. Didn't mean to make it so big, but you see that now. And determine what h and k are. That'll give you the h and k in your equation. You'll also need a. If it's reflected, if it's going, pointing down, a curve like that, then you'll know that a is negative. And to get a, you're going to take the end point, and you're going to count over one unit, and then figure out how much it goes up or down. And however much it goes from the end point is your a value. So let's look at this one. We know, first let's make the table. I have a point here, it's at 0, 5. Sorry, I made it kind of messy, but that's where it is. And then your next point is at 1, and it's at 5.5. And then this green point here is at 4, 6. And this green point over here is at 9, and then it's at 6.5. So there's our table, 0, 5, 1, 5.5, 4, 6, and 9, 6.5. So I'm going to take these points in this table, and I'm going to figure out, okay, h and k are going to be the endpoints. So that is h, and that is k, because that's our endpoint. And then from that point, let me get a different color here. Okay, from the endpoint right here, when we go right 1 unit, we only go up a half. Instead of going up our usual 1, 1, we're now going 1, 1/2. So we know that it is shrunk by a factor of a half, and a is a half. So these numbers here are what you need to write the equation. So I'm going to go to the next page and write that equation. Okay, so this makes our equation y equals, it's not negative because it's not reflected, but the a is 1/2. Then the parent function is the square root of x. There's no h because h is 0. It doesn't shift left or right. And then it's going up 5, so we say plus 5. That's your equation. And then the only thing left is to write the description, so you're just going to say the square root function that is shrunk or compressed by a factor of 1/2 and shifted up 5 units. All right, and then the last example, I'll give you a table. So when you're given a table, the first thing you want to do is plot the points and show the graph. So we've got 3, -2, 4, -4, 7, -6, and 11, -8, which I know is off, but it's over here. So then we'll connect the dots, and our curve goes out like that. So from this, we can locate h and k because we know the endpoint. H is 3, k is -2, and we can figure out what is a. From our endpoint, if we go over 1, we're going to be going down 2. So that means that a is -2. So we now know h, k, and a, and we're going to use those to write the equation. Y equals, our a is -2. We have the square root. Our h was right 3 units, so we're going to say x, remember it's minus h, so x minus 3, and then down 2 units, so -2. So there's your equation. Easy peasy. The hardest part to find is a, but all you have to do is count over from the endpoint, and you'll know exactly what it is. So now that we have the equation, we can then write the description, and we'll be done. And we have a square root function that has been stretched by a factor of 2, reflected over the x-axis, shifted right 3 units, and down 2 units. And that is the end of this lesson. And of course, I have a joke for you. All right, see you guys in school tomorrow.